Hello and welcome to day 144, 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tomlins Nyback. Appreciate all of you all watching here as we move through coming up on the halfway point in a little bit here. One quick disclaimer. I know I get your comments and I see people write stuff there in your comments, but I'm working through a server with considerable restrictions. So and I'll keep the long story short. I just don't get out much. But I see the comments, and I promise to get through everything, maybe in a big review by the end of the year. Having said that, why are we here? We're here talking about black issues in America, wondering how black people feel, what white people do, how the world is configured. And as I move through this project, two big main thoughts come to the fore. First thought is the mind of America. First, the mind of black folks. Are black folks still living in a slave orientation here in America? Are they still slaves in their minds? We come and go freely, in a sense, but do we have liberty? Do we experience the world through a white lens, per se? Now, conversely, second thought is the other side of the same coin about the mind of Americans is the white mind: entitlement, privilege, expectation of favor through society and the world. The people of a skin color who subjected people of another skin color to hard labor and other ways of dysfunction in America. And my second big thought is a concern for financial literacy among black people. Do we understand how money works, why money works the way it does, what's inflation, what's disposable income, who are we spending our money with, how do we hold on to our dollars, why are our dollars spent, why are we seemingly never catch up, in the rat race. Dr. Kiyosaki has a great online board game, Cash Flow, and you want to get out of the rat race and start experiencing a good life where resources are no longer an issue or a question. The rat race. Do we understand how the government keeps borrowing from the future more and more? They just keep grabbing at it in creative ways, and it trickles down to the blue collar working people like you and I. I'm nowhere near. I believe I'm pointed in the direction kind of out of here, but I'm still very much a blue collar worker here in America. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. We're going to be getting into his works, continuing to get into his works the next day or two. I want you to get these books, and if you only get one of his books, I want you to get this one, A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. We're in here today, question 87, returning to the subject of the Freedman's Bank. I know we talked about it before, but it's pretty important. Rehash some of these things. We've laid some groundwork, first 100 or so days. Now we're going to get more myopic and focus in on some of these issues that we talked broadly about. Black labor, white wealth, search for power and economic justice, and Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com, the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. Oh, well, you'll see behind me the hashtag #us2 symbol. Um, you'll find Black women conversing, coming together there in that space. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, and find more support there. It's kind of a Black Facebook if you've never checked it out. Oh, and you know, it's the web, right? It's World Wide Web. So you can find your community, your favor. You can find dissenting groups and the like anywhere that you choose. Also, we have story time. After we go through a few questions in a Black History Reader, we're going to get back to some story time. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work, fictional life of a slave. Yet I want you to read to the end of that book, um, get the whole story, so to speak. Okay. So today we're looking at question 87 here in the Black History Reader. And the question is, should Congress repay the $50 million that the federal officials stole from the Freedman's Bank? Give you a little background. We've talked about this before, but maybe we'll get to some new issues here. That $50 million is a kind of an adjusted figure as well. So 1865, radical Republicans felt rightly to aid emancipated Black folks. Um, you know, they knew they needed some economic support and help. You know, maybe it was even the beginning of a welfare agenda proper here in America. And, you know, it says, Dr. Anderson says radical Republicans. You know, it's interesting. He refers to uh, any group of powerful white folks with some altruistic intentions, some benevolence as radical, which is I know why he says it, because it is radical to suggest this huge handout of 40 acres, a mule, and $100 uh, to these Black folks that may not know necessarily how to deal with that. And also, it was intended also to help this particular Freedman's Bank was intended to help um, ex-Black soldiers who served in the Civil War. You know, they had money coming in, and other Blacks had resources and things like that. So they say, well, let's get in. The white kind of establishment says, well, let's make a Freedman's Bank and let's the Blacks put their money there. You know, it's very uh, innocent and docile and logical on the surface to have people bring their money there. So Congress said, yeah, that's a great idea. Uh, they would um, better the slaves as an individual. They acknowledge Black disadvantages, and it would teach financial literacy to Black folks, which was a very huge challenge. Yeah, and that's the thing with the emancipation of the slaves. You know, they emancipated a block of ignorant folks who didn't understand the systems. You know, they weren't necessarily present at their masters' estate meetings and plannings and going over figures of last year's crops, present crops, expectation of future crops, and things like that. You know, they just let these people loose. Uh, so it's like World War II when America finds these concentration camps of Jews, and they're emaciated, starving, sick. You know, the humanity comes out and just wants to feed them and all this stuff, but they've gone beyond simple. They haven't missed a meal or two. They need medical attention. They need some restorative measures before they can even partake of a decent, hearty meal. That's how critical they were. Same with black folks here in America being emancipated out of slavery. Um, but it was a potential, for them to live as their masters did. I wonder what freedom meant to a slave. What does that look like? You know, is it just cessation of work, or do they understand control of their space and some of the things, what it means to be free? You know, um, did they just see it as an opportunity to lay around all day? You know, uh, but not. We know some blacks at least were involved and knew that it was more than cessation of work. Freedom has responsibilities. You take care of the land, but it's you making your own decisions. They weren't that far gone, I'm sure. Um, so the whites took that Congress, and just let it run on automatic and trusted the altruistic heart of these white men with all this money pouring in to the bank. And, didn't get far from slavery. Remember, slavery, we're not far from slavery today. We still go out, labor, and got to bring our funds to some higher, bigger, because of the land and processes, infrastructure, it's all been appropriated. Prices keep rising, there's inflation and whatnot. So, it's slavery because I would be doing otherwise, right? I'm still compelled. If I don't perform, what happens? Then I uh, I have to resort to lesser means. I'm cut off from aspects of society. Now, fortunately for me, I've been homeless. I know how to maneuver if I'm in near a big city. I get it. I know how to make it happen. I'm not going to be that strung out. There's a lot of uh, very open and altruistic branches of people, mostly religious, in America, where I could still, get around and stuff. If I chose not to engage and perform at a high standard within the system, But that's what I mean, right? There's this big system called America, that I feel compelled to participate, and that's a drag because I would be doing otherwise. You know, I'm a thinker. I like music. I'm an introvert. Things like that. You know. So they gave this money to the white folks, and it got the pot just got too big, and I don't know when it started, but we find it insolvent 10 years later. It was kaput, and but the thing is, the white folks, they did risky business plans and you know risky maneuvers with the money, outright spent it. You know, I don't know what story was told the black folks when they came looking for their investments. They were promised returns. I'm sure. I mean, golden the golden paved roads, food. I'm sure the pitch was very grand to get them to participate. And then they're coming in from the fields, and they no doubt told their neighbors, and their neighbors have participated, and they're like, where's this money? And this was all up and down kind of the East Coast mainly, big cities, Philly, Atlanta, Nashville, of course, DC, New York, you know, those centers. And there were 37 branches essentially in all, just all over the place, just sucking the money out of the black community. Uh, so that was outright robbed. How, I wonder if the white people were like, you know, but we could have got rid of slavery a long time ago if we had known they'd keep working and still bring us their resources. Darn, we could have saved on our own plantation infrastructure and all that. Just turn them loose and they keep keep working for us. Uh, so I put that in the notes. I'm sorry, I'm just like there's levity to it, but so many incredulous things have gone on in this nation and still continue to this day. So, I mean, that's the essential dynamic, is what whites want anyway. You know, the war was for, Civil War was over, you know, uh, congressional power and things like that, and what the slaves represented as far as that human capital. All right, uh, but the coerced work and things, that was a whole nother issue. Yet it still continued. That Freedman's Bank is a prime example. They were just taking advantage of outright ignorant people who had no idea. Because the conditioning is there to trust white people. You know, believe their word. The white folks are magicians, practically godlike, and how they do things, how they maneuver, their apparent opulence. Uh, they know numbers and words and rhetoric, and that they told me that I was dumb and stupid and only good for carrying bales of hay and stuff. It's like I come through a lot of missions and things, and one guy at a mission told a story consistently of this eagle who happened to his egg happened to fall into a nest of or flock of chickens, right? So this eagle, grows up and it's scraping its wings on the ground and plucking at the ground. He's a vegetarian, right? And like he's one day he sees an eagle, one of his own kind, up there a mile up, you know, and eagles can actually fly higher than that, but for the wings are out, the sight. A lot of birds can float and glide. They're on wind drafts, and they're masters of the air. And this eagle amongst the chickens is like, wow, And boy, I wish I could do that. But the chickens around him is like, nah, man, you're a chicken, because they even think he's a chicken. Forget about it. You can't do that. You're a chicken. And he goes on. He said, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm a chicken. And he goes on scraping the ground, being a vegetarian, whatnot. If he ever came to his senses, he'd wipe out all his friends. Same with the black folks. They were told, they were conditioned in such a way to favor white society. So went their money and their resources. We do this, blacks do this in the same way today. There are groups and organizations, I've mentioned them before, especially as far as business. We're going to revisit the issue and subject again, I'm sure, about how blacks, um, there are groups hostile to black achievement, growth, um, wealth, and that they gladly take our money, but they don't reciprocate business. They suck resources out of our communities and neighborhoods, but don't invest back in infrastructure, um, and other things in the neighborhood that they're sucking out this money from. You know, black is it's unfortunate. It's the skin color of the world. It's the rejected skin color of the world. You know, through this study, I learned. I'm on college campus, and uh, I'm kind of in fellowship. It's a very international space. Yet I have no idea that I'm hanging out with people who whose countries still practice slavery even today. Oh, there's slavery, human trafficking, all that. That we don't have to. I hope I don't have to prove that to you. But now I kind of understand some of the, I don't know, strange attitudes towards me, a black man. Uh, I need to get out more. I need to visit these countries, uh, to see them still practicing slavery on black folks. They still take black folks, and I don't know if it's more humane or not. I don't have no idea how it goes on. We don't get that feedback. But Arab countries, Arabs are, you know, still practicing slavery. You know, and their women are beautiful. Yet I wonder, if they see me as, being a black man as a slave. Asians uh, prefer their own. And this gets back also to the ethno aggregation and vertical integration that we talk about occasionally. We got groups, they'll stick to their own. They know how they know how to sacrifice generationally. They have such a long-term global idea of where their race, where their people should be in the world, and they just focus that energy inward, and it expands outward. You know, black folks we're just letting energy loose, and we shrink in our influence in our physical space as a group. Well, I think hopefully we'll get on top of that one of these days. Now, no prosecutions, no outcry, no restitution, no history. I'm wondering if my people put money into this bank, into this fund. I mean, you think about inflation and adjustments and stuff, which is, one reason why reparations is such a challenging issue, because we are so far in arrears of getting black folks, their ancestors, uh, you know, proper compensation. We don't do it. I'm reading a book. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island, and it really brings home the idea of how America, and I'm sure other nations as well, we keep robbing from the future. You know, what we need, we're here in the present. It's all we can see. We don't can't get around or look beyond it. So financially, we keep reaching into the future, you know, uh, for your financial literacy, if you can understand this, you know, if I give you $1 as a loan, I'm going to want some interest. Say I want 10 cents interest, you know. So we're going to keep that up until you give me my dollar back. So you keep paying the 10 cents, you know. But then that goes on so long you kind of get tired of it and you want to leave. You just want to get out of the deal. Well, that hurts me kind of two ways. You um, I'm missing the cash flow from the 10 cents, which is what I really want. I'm not really even caring about the principal. But then I'll lose the principal as well. So I'll tell you what, I'll make you another loan of another $1. So now I want you to keep paying the interest. And what I do, I keep doing that, and you just keep going backwards and backwards, just so I can keep the cash flow going. And I never really get everything I'm looking for, and that the lender really doesn't want uh, to consummate or satisfy the loan. They want to keep cash flow, if you can follow me here. So I won't go big into that, but it's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. I highly recommend it. I'm not even through with it, but it just reads well. It's a big tome, but it reads very well. It's very understandable. You can follow the author's argument quite easily. So, the Freedman's Bank, a lot of things in America where America's just robbed, A lot of groups are aggrieved and have been victimized in some way here in America, at one time or another. It's that American dues, the brand comes out. So all of that goes, I'm hoping someday we can, be still and at peace long enough to get at some of these ancient issues that we've just run over, people we've had run roughshod over, build some monuments, have some celebrations for the sacrifices. You got a million blacks shipped from Africa, and then you've got families propagating here in America. A lot of stuff, and that there needs to be some answer for that. Ultimately, philosophically, where's humanity going is another issue as well, because we're not reaching what it is we're after as a human race. We're not getting there. We've got America's going through a very sad time politically. It's the worst political time I've been aware of. I wasn't aware when Nixon went through his thing. I wasn't aware. I was just a kid. Clinton went through his thing, but the country was going through quite a boom during the Clinton years. And it seems the tail end of Obama into Trump, we are starting, we're kind of stuck in the mud. And it may take some considerable force to get out. Freedman's Bank, check it out. Check it out in the Black History Reader. Go online and look at another way that black folks were robbed and aggrieved by a white regime here in America. Land of the free, home of the brave. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. Day 144 in the pocket. Let's keep going. We're just moving right along. I'll see you tomorrow.